So the new Instant Pot Mini is small, it's shallow, and mine comes in a beautiful shade called Sea Salt White. But is it able to hold its own in a real world kitchen, or is it just adorably impractical? Well, let's find out. Now, I've been cooking with Instant Pot since 2016, and I should say right at the beginning, this is not sponsored by Instant Pot or anyone else. I bought this with my own money, as I do all of my Instant Pots. And this is part 1 of my new mini series on the Mini. And today in this first episode, I'm going to show you what makes this model different, what my honest first impressions are, and one surprising thing that the manual I downloaded gets wrong. And you need to know about this, because if you start cooking without knowing it, you're going to get some very strange results from this machine. So more on that later. So let's get started with what's in the box. So here in the UK, this model is called the Instant Pot Classic Mini, 3.8 litres, and in the US the Rio Mini 4 Quart. It's part of the Instant Pot Rio series, which means it's one of their simpler, more budget friendly models, especially compared to the Pro range. This colour is called Sea Salt White. And in the UK, we also have 2 other colours available. One is black pepper, so the kind of dark black coloured Instant Pot, and the other is called Daydream Blue. Gosh, I've just realised how noisy it is outside. Let me close the window. And I understand that Daydream Blue is particularly beautiful, but as I'm renovating my house at the moment and my kitchen's going to have kind of green accents, I wasn't going to get the blue one as it will look terrible. So I've gone for the white, nice and simple, nice and calm looking, and it really is a good looking model. And if you're new here, by the way, I'm Susan from Cooking and Calm, and here we're all about finding ways to save time, eat well, and keep things a bit calm in the kitchen, and Instant Pots for me are a huge part of that. So the first thing you're going to notice is the shape. It's shorter and wider than the older Mini, and it also has a slightly larger capacity. So it has this shallow bowl that's much easier for kind of reaching into, sautéing and stirring, and that wider base at the bottom. So I'm not sure yet how well it could work for things like cooking a whole chicken, which I love to do, or for pot-in-pot cooking. It may not be your priority, but a shallower bowl obviously means we can't stack as high. We don't want anything touching here, but we'll find out properly in our testing. Now let me show you how this compares to the standard height. So this is the bowl for the Mini, and this is the bowl for my 5.7 litre 6 quart Instant Pot Whisper Quiet model that I've been testing a lot this year, and I think is kind of in a similar-ish price range, so might be of interest to kind of look at the differences that you get. We'll do more comparison on what that means in practice in episode 3, but for the purposes here, what I wanted to show you is the width of this new pot is exactly the same as the Instant Pot Whisper Quiet Duo Plus range. And what this means is that if you have accessories for a larger model Instant Pot, you're going to be able to fit them in here. So if you have a glass lid that you sometimes use on an Instant Pot, that's going to work. And the trivets and other things you might have bought may well fit inside this wider pot, as long as it's not too tall for this little shallow one. And it also means that the seal on the lid, the rubber gasket, those are going to be the same size as for the 5.7 litre, the standard size Instant Pot. And I've never owned a Mini before, but I have heard from owners that they sometimes have problems getting the gaskets, getting the spares. So you shouldn't have any problem at all getting spares for this new version, because it's the same one as for the standard size Instant Pot, and I've never had a problem getting hold of those. And it's the entry-level model of the stainless steel inner bowl with no handles, so same as the rest of the Rio range and the rest of the Duo Plus range, and it is a good quality pot. pot that will last for many years, and no worries about non-stick coating. Stainless steel is the best material for these multi-cookers, and no one will convince me otherwise. So many people have really not liked where the InstantPot inner pot spins as you're stirring, and this new model has got the same mechanism as the InstantPot Whisper Quiet, in that some additional rubber lugs have been added on inside the housing here. That means when you put in your pot, it kind of grips it and the pot won't spin as you stir. Though some of us, including me, actually quite like that spinning, but no spinning on this new Mini. The pot is light and easy to move around, and this model has that lovely feature when you take the lid off, you can store it in this handy little slot in the side, and that's a real space saver if you haven't got much worktop room. And then you can get on, add in any ingredients, give it a stir, and then get your pot back on again. And then one thing I think quite a few of you are going to really like is that this pot has the new lid design. Let me show you. So we've got a standard weight here. This is where the steam comes out. Then we've got a red pin, and when that drops, you know that the pressure has released. And then the thing that I really like, especially if you're a bit nervous of pressure cookers, is that we have a button here to release the steam. So to release the steam, we're going to be moving it there, and then that lifts that weight at the top there, and the steam will start coming out over here. So your fingers are miles away from where the actual steam comes out. And this is really great design. I've seen it also on the Whisper Quiet and some of the more pro models, and this is the way to go, especially if you've got problems with fine motor skills, you're a bit worried about burning yourself or slipping. Miles away, all the way over here. And then this model also has the auto locking lid, which means you don't need much of a memory to make sure you've set this up properly. So we've got a nice marker there, and that lines up with the padlock open. On the lid goes. And then as you turn clockwise, that locks the lid. So you don't need to do any fiddling about with the steam pressure weight. The lid locks automatically, and you can release the pressure by just moving that little button there. Very good design, InstantPot. And then, as you'd expect for a budget model, this isn't a Whisper Quiet steam release, it's just a standard steam release. And in part 3, I'll show you the difference between steam release on this and on the Duo Plus Whisper Quiet model. Now let's take a look at the control panel. So with this model, InstantPot has got its kind of new display. They're moving more and more to this, where instead of having buttons with words on them, what we've actually got here are just icons only display. And that might work really well for some of you, and for others you may prefer text. So a bit of guesswork from me now. Let's see. We've got pressure cook here, saute, eggs. That looks like an egg timer. Oh, slow cooking, steam, and we've got yogurt. And then we've got time delay start and keep warm. That must be cancel, and then this to adjust your time. And we've also got a little display here. So let me actually put the unit on so you can see the display. See now on the display we've got off there, nice and clear. I like the fact that we've got these little lights for preheat, cook and warm. This is really good for a basic model like this. First impressions, pretty good. So the Mini comes with 6 smart programs. So let's just check through and look at the levels on those. The first one is pressure cooking, just here in the top left. So there's only one level of pressure cooking in this model. It's pressure cook high, which is what you use for about 90%, maybe 95% of recipes. But many models also have pressure cooking low, and then the adjustment is just in the timings, which you can do here. That's all pretty standard. So here's the saute button. So we're going to click saute, and we've got the time flashing, so we can change the time. Let's change that to 35, and now we've got the 3 bars, shows the maximum saute setting. We go down to medium, 2 bars, and then down to low saute. That's a little bit more fiddly, but I do like that it has a medium setting, which is often what I end up using. So we'll see how that goes when we get into testing in the real world. Turn that on and we get preheat, cook and warm. And then we've got the egg button, so let's have a look at this. 5 minutes. Okay, there's only one temperature for egg, but we can change the buttons here. The default is 5, and then we would click start, and that's fine. And now slow cooking. That egg timer there, just confusing me. And we've got the 6 hours there. And the slow cook has a minimum time of 30 minutes and a maximum cook time of 24 hours. And then to get the setting for the slow cooking, we've got high, low, and then you would just click start and off it goes. Straight into cook on the symbol rather than preheat. That's an improvement because it's very confusing on a lot of the models where it sticks in preheat. And then we've got the steam setting. This should be like a normal kind of steamer and not under pressure, though it does say in the manual that it might go into auto pressure and you may need to release it. So this is quite common with Instant Pots and steaming. So again, I'll have a look at that and make sure I give that a good test for part 2 of the video. Cancel that. Now the yogurt setting begins with a boil, like most of them. So you click around with the buttons to get either on the boil setting or on the medium setting there, which is 40 degrees, or on the low setting here, which is 33 degrees. So it's not fully customizable like some of the other Instant Pots. And this seems to be the way things are going. It's a little bit more restricted. So again, we'll see how that goes when I make some yogurt in the testing video. And then we also have the functions that come with all Instant Pots, which is the keep warm function and the delay start. Super good for stressful days, so you can have your Instant Pot set off later on things like pressure cooking programs, and especially good is this keep warm function. So you can just set and forget, let the Instant Pot do the work for you, get on with all the things you need to do, knowing that at the end of cook time it's going to switch over to keep warm as long as you've left it on, and keep your food warm until you're actually ready to serve. Very helpful for those of us with stressful lives, and that's all of us these days, isn't it? So the Mini has a smaller amount of preset programs. So the common ones that aren't on this model are the sous vide, so you will not be able to sous vide in this model. It also doesn't have a cake setting. Now I never use the cake setting, so I'm not the person to advise on this, but what I do know is that to make things like lava cakes and cheesecakes, you'll be able to use the pressure cooker or the steam to make those kind of cakes in here. And finally, you might notice that there aren't any rice buttons or buttons for things like beans, and don't worry about that at all, because the presets are actually just about using pressure cook at a specific time. I always end up changing them anyway. We just use pressure cook with the adjustable settings. I will test it, of course, but I'm confident that you will be able to make rice and dry beans and all of that kind of stuff in this cooker, no problem at all. So first impressions, well, obviously you don't get some of the advanced features like an air fryer lid or that higher grade stainless steel pot with handles, but this is a budget version. It's a mini version of the budget version, and these cooking functions seem good enough to me. One thing I'm really curious about is that I've heard some people saying that the egg function might actually be a lower pressure cooking function. So I'm going to try and see if I can work that out in my testing. And if you're finding this video helpful, I'd be really grateful if you could give it a thumbs up. This helps YouTube know that I'm trying to be a helpful human and help spread the video further. So thank you so much if you've got time to do that. Now, do you remember I said at the beginning that there was a problem in one of the manuals that I think will ruin many a recipe? Well, you probably know by now that Instant Pot doesn't give you the full manual in the box. It's just a quick start guide. So I downloaded the full manual and been kind of reading it back to front, trying to see what this Instant Pot can do. And I was super surprised to see that it said the minimum amount of liquid for using in this Mini was 750 mils. That is a lot of water. It's usually more like 1 to 2 cups, about 350 mils or something like that. So after doing some digging and then going all the way back to the quick start guide that actually is in the box, I can see that this is a misprint. What we have in my quick start guide, add 375 mils of water to the cooking pot. This is the minimum liquid level required to pressure cook. So that's about 1.5 cups, which is much more the norm for Instant Pot Pot cooking. And if you use 750 mils in a recipe like, say, my beginner's beef stew, it's going to come out super runny and tasteless, and you're going to have to saute off for ages. So do check that out. It's a PDF manual, so hopefully they'll correct that, and maybe it's not the case in your region. But all of this is theory at the moment because I haven't actually tried it. So let's do the test run. They used to call this the water test. I'm going to use the 375 mils, and let's make sure it comes to pressure okay. And also you'll get to see what it's like to release the steam. So let's do that. We've got our usual condensation collector, I forgot to mention. There it goes. So let's get ourselves 375 mils of water. Select the pressure cooking function, and we're going to change the time to 5 minutes. Click start. And now the button's moved over to cook, and we're counting down from 5 to 4. Okay, this is quite nice. We're getting a countdown for the last minute, which you don't often get on Instant Pot. It's usually just 1 minute and then off it goes. So let's release the pressure using this button here. And there it goes. So that came out really quickly. And then if we watch out, and that pin has dropped already. And now we can press cancel. And if all is well, the lid should come off. Yep. With an Instant Pot shake. And you can put the lid in there. So there we are, we've done that first test, and always do this when you get a new Instant Pot or pressure cooker. Super important to know everything's working well before you put the added complication of food in there. So we know there's the right amount of liquid. 375 mils worked really well, and then it released the pressure really fast. So I can't say it was quiet, but on the other side of the coin, that pin dropped before I could even get my camera on it, which was pretty amazing. So first impressions then. So far, the Mini looks like a promising option for people looking for that smaller pot. The footprint is really compact, the pot is light, it's a really good price, especially in those sales. But that said, I don't usually recommend these smaller pots, because for me, you can cook small portions in the standard size Instant Pot, but what you can't do is do a big batch cook in a small one. Or can you? Well, this version is a little bit bigger than the V1 Instant Pot Mini. So in part 2, I'll be testing realistically what you can actually cook in it. So join me for that one soon, and it will be right there as soon as I've made it. And in the meantime, thanks so much for watching, and may your kitchen be calm and your food always be good.